Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the first Missouri Welding Institute of 2025. I hope everyone had a happy and safe new year, and I hope everyone's looking forward to catching a bunch of bass here in 2025. I want to start by reminding everyone that on January 30th and 31st, Missouri Welding Institute is holding their annual high school welding competition. It's a great event. The winner's going to walk away with a brand new Lincoln portable welding machine, as well as a full ride scholarship. Everyone else that shows up and competes is going to leave with a $1,000 scholarship towards future classes at Missouri Welding Institute. So, like I said, great event. Hope to see you guys there. I want to get the year kicked off by talking about something very basic, and that is gear ratios in your fishing reels. I've got a little bit of off-the-wall theories on which gear ratios I like to use, and I want to explain those to you guys. Hopefully you can apply it to your fishing and catch more fish. So be sure to let me know what you guys think in the comments here. And here we go. So I have tried some of the 9 to 1s and 10 to 1 gear ratio reels, and they just weren't for me. So all my fishing is done with a 7.3 to 1 down to a 4.7 actually. They're getting kind of hard to find, and like I said, I like to utilize those a lot. I like to really work a reel and reel a lot. So to offset that, I kind of lean towards a slower gear ratio reel. So, my top water fishing in the warmer water months are going to be done with a 7.3 to 1. I like to lean towards that higher speed reel just for the fact that the fish are, they're pretty fired up. Once you get a bite, you need to catch up to them. And once you hook them, they're usually pretty hot and they're moving quick. So you really need to catch up with them. A good rule of thumb also is I like to use my higher speed reels for my jig and worm fishing, where I'm not really using the reel to power the bait. I'm just merely taking up the slack and trying to catch up to the fish on it. So for my jigs, worms, things of that nature, I'll use the 7.3 to 1s. For spoon fishing in the summertime, I definitely like the higher speed reels. You're jerking that bait really high off the bottom, and you really need the higher speed reel to catch up to that bait quick so you don't miss the bite. Now, whenever we start talking about treble hook baits, usually I'll use like a 6.3 to 1 or something of that nature. For my rattle trap fishing, I do like to use the higher speeds, like a 7.3 to 1 works really good for me, and it's kind of like spoon fishing. You're jerking that rattle trap out of grass and things of that nature, and you need to be able to catch up to that fish really quick. So I like that 7.3 to 1 for those applications. And then I kind of start getting into the 6.3 to 1s whenever we start talking about flipping. I will use a 7.3 to 1 90% of the time, but whenever I'm flipping in a really heavy cover situation, or if I'm doing some deeper water flipping, like say the lake's really, really high and flooded, and I'm needing to flip bushes or standing trees and we'll say 8 to 10 foot of water, I'll kind of start going towards that 6.3 to 1 because I really feel like I got a lot more power with the slower speed reel. I'd never probably go down to a 5.3 to 1 or anything like that, but a 6.3 to 1, I'll start using those in those deeper flipping applications just for the fact that I feel like I got more power and more torque on that reel to get that fish up and out of there. Now, whenever we talk about spinner baits, I'll almost always use a 6.3 to 1. Even if it's summertime and I'm trying to slow roll a spinner bait deep, but for just springtime spinner baiting, things of that nature, I'll use a 6.3 to 1. I will kind of factor in a 5.3 to 1 in, let's say, early pre-spawn, whenever the water is like around, let's say, 42 to 45. I'll use that 5.3 to 1 to really slow down my presentation where I'm not going to overwind that bait or something like that. Chatterbaits, I almost always throw that on a 6.3 to 1, which might be a little slower than what everyone else likes to use. My square bill crankbaits, I'll use a 6.3 to 1. In the summertime, I'll throw a deep crankbait on a 6.3 to 1 for the most part whenever I'm needing a faster, application or something like that. Other than that, I'll throw almost the rest of my crankbaits on a 5.3 to 1. And, sometimes I'll even factor in a 4.7. Like I said, they're getting kind of hard to find. But, hey, David Fritz, the king of cranking, used an old BB1 like this. It's a 4.7. And I still have a couple of these. My buddy that fixes all my reels probably gets really tired of me having them fixed all the time, but I really love this reel. It casts really good, and it's got that 4.7 gear ratio where in early spring, whenever the water's 45 to 50 degrees, I'm never gonna have to worry about overwinding my wiggle warts or early pre-spawn crankbaits. So I'll stick with those gear ratios for my crankbaits. Jerkbait fishing in the springtime, you're not using your reel to power the bait. But I will sometimes go to a 5.3 to 1 on my jerk baits just for the fact of I feel like one of the worst things that you can do with the jerk bait is after you jerk that bait a couple times is over reel your slack. So it's more of an inches per turn kind of deal with the 5.3 to 1 reel with my jerk bait fishing, just so I don't, move that bait forward. like I said, you jerk the bait a couple times, and if you're using, a higher speed reel, it takes up more inches per turn. It's going to draw that bait forward, and I want to try to avoid that at all costs. So I'll use a 5-3-1 or 6-3-1 for my jerkbait fishing the pre-spawn. Now, if I'm trying like jerkbaiting in the summertime or things of that nature with the live scope, you do that a lot more. I will go up to a higher speed reel, like a 7 or something. But in the cold water months, jerkbaiting, I'll use the slower speeds. A-rig fishing, pre-live scope, I always use a 5-3-1 just so I kept that bait down there and kept it moving slow. But now that, you can watch your bait the whole time and you're kind of just more apt to reel it slower if you can actually see your bait and have the peace of mind that's down there on the cover you're trying to get it on. I'll use a 6-3-1 most of the time, and I have no problems with that. So like I said, I'm a little bit different. I'll kind of lean towards slower speed reels. So let me know what you guys think. And of course, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.